Want to add some thrill to your chill? Cocoa Beach on Florida's Space Coast has it all, with miles of open beach and easy access to the Banana River and Indian River Lagoon. Cocoa Beach is your outdoor playground. Surf, foil, kite surf, jet ski, paddleboard, kayak, water ski. If you can do it in a bathing suit, you can do it on Cocoa Beach. Dive into the adventurous side of Cocoa Beach at legendarycocobeach.com.
Did you know that 1 in 8 kids in Atlanta will go hungry tonight? Eating healthy, balanced meals is essential for kids to learn and grow. That's why Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield and education nonprofit Common Threads have teamed up to help schools learn about healthier food preparation. In Atlanta, they're joined by The Dream and will provide education, recipes, and knowledge to students and families about healthier options. Visit anthem.com/dream to learn more. Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield is the trade name of Blue Cross Blue Shield Healthcare Plan of Georgia, Inc.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. John Schmeelk, Matthew Citak with you, taking your calls at 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513, or check us out at hashtag GiantsChat if you want to get in touch with us that way. You certainly can. Also, starting next week, I'm going to start checking our Big Blue Kickoff Live email. So bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. If you want to send in some of your questions, we can get to those as well. And I'm going to try to work on, for the summer and then the regular season, getting a voicemail box. So if people are out there and you cannot call in live to the show and it's an off hour and you're listening to us on the podcast and Paul Dottino says something that really grinds your gears, you can call in, leave a message, and as long as it's not profane and Pearson approves it, it can go up on the show. That'll be, so if you want your message coming up, you need to kiss up to Pearson. He'll be the one that's making those decisions. So again, you can join us at 201-939-4513. I'll work on trying to get that voicemail box up at some point. I think that'll be a fun addition to the show. So I thought today, Matt, because yesterday you and Paul kind of recapped what happened at OTAs in the offseason program. I'm kind of going to more of our themes for shows in the offseason. And one thing we do every year, first time Matt's doing it, is that we kind of go in the NFC East, position group by position group, rank them 1 through 4, 4 being the best, 1 being the worst, with all 4 teams in the NFC East. You add up the points, you see where we're at, and then we decide kind of how we rank the NFL NFC East based on total points across these different position groups. So we've broken them up into our traditional positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, O-line, defensive tackle, edge, inside linebacker, cornerback, safety, then coaching staff, and special teams altogether. So those are the 12 categories. We have them ranked. I also did like the premium position, so I have a separate point total for those that I've tracked on my sheet, and we'll kind of go from there. So, all right, let's go, Matt.
Before we get started,
yes,
just because we announced this news literally
Tre Herndon
30 seconds after Paul and I got off the air.
I was going to lead with that, and I forgot. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
But yesterday, the Giants signed cornerback Tre Herndon. He was here the last couple of days as part of the mini camp as a tryout player, one of the few players that was here on a tryout basis. And he had an interception during team drills yesterday, a deflected pass. Darian Beavers tipped it up. He caught it, ran it back for what likely would have been a pick six. And after practice, it was announced that the Giants signed him to a contract. And it adds, another veteran body to a relatively young cornerback group. He had a solid season last year for the Jaguars. He spent his whole career with the Jaguars. I believe he was 2018. He went undrafted.
This is not tight end Tre Herndon that played for the Jets, just so people understand.
Chris Herndon.
Oh, that's Chris Herndon. Sorry, yes.
Yes, this is cornerback Tre Herndon. Spent the last, I believe, 6 seasons with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Spent most of last year playing out of the slot and, had a solid season.
The best season of his career.
Yeah. He has experience both inside and outside throughout his 6 seasons in Jacksonville. At this point, it's another veteran body in the mix for the cornerback group. There, I feel like there are a couple of spots in that group that are sort of up for grabs heading into training camp. He, will compete with some of the younger guys, and sort of we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the Giants don't have a veteran slot guy, really. Nick McLeod's been playing there, but he doesn't have a lot of experience playing in the slot. I almost feel like that's more of a placeholder than a guy that's going to be there full time. And they've moved Darnay Holmes outside. He's not playing in the slot in this system. He's an outside corner. Cordell Flott is not playing in the slot in the system. He's an outside corner. So it's basically Andrew Phillips, Nick McLeod, and I think, is Caleb Hayes the slot with the threes, I think? Does that sound right?
I'm not sure. I don't know if he's been taking his snaps in the slot.
And that's my point.
Season.
You need another guy, especially a guy that has NFL experience. You mentioned like his primary position has been slot for the past 3 seasons. He played more outside corner earlier in his career. And Matt's especially excited because he's a Vanderbilt alumni.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't going to let this one fall through the cracks. It's not very often that we have a Vanderbilt Commodore on the roster. This is entering my 6th season with the team. We've had maybe 2 or 3. Spencer Pulley's the only one I actually remember.
I didn't know he was a Vanderbilt guy.
That was here and actually played a decent amount. The other guys were all, kind of training camp players that didn't even make the final cut. But got to give a shout out to my fellow Commodore.
Absolutely. So just another body back there for a position where Shane Bowen, when you and Paul talked about this yesterday, basically said, and he didn't say it was that position group specifically, I'm going to interpret it as that, where no one has really, separated themselves from the group yet in a lot of these competitions in the spring, mostly because it's a teaching time of year. It's not really a competitive time of year, but I think when you get to camp, pads go on, you can play press, you can be a little more physical and more aggressive. That's one of the spots at corner where he's going to want to see guys step up and try to separate themselves from the pack a little bit.
Yeah, if you look at, each of the different position groups on the Giants defense right now, I would say other than Deonte Banks, the rest of the cornerbacks, that is really the position that is completely up for grabs at this point.
Man, let's be honest. There's only 2 spots in the whole secondary that we know who the starters are going to be. One safety, I think I'd be shocked if one safety wasn't Jason Pinnock.
Yeah.
And I'd be surprised if one cornerback wasn't Deonte Banks. The other spots?
Yeah, I mean, the second safety spot, I think we both believe will be either Dane Belton or Tyler Nubin, potentially Jalen Mills as well. Jalen Mills is another veteran guy that has some slot experience.
He said that he's going to be a safety here, though, pretty much. He said so. I would expect
also,
him to be a
I guess
safety.
it depends on the packages the Giants run. We could see packages. We saw one yesterday that was, primarily defensive backs back there.
Yeah, and here's another tease for fans out there. I recorded all my player interviews for the Giants Huddle podcast on Monday when we did our player interviews. Isaiah Simmons said he might be a big slot where they want to play kind of like 3 safeties. He could be a big slot, too, on early downs. So another guy that could be in the mix there as well.
Yeah, I mean, there was, I'm not going to go into the details of like the personnel, but there was at least one kind of couple of plays where Bobby Okereke was the only linebacker out there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And then they had
multiple safeties.
They had I believe it was at least 6 defensive backs on the field, including one playing linebacker. So, we'll have to see who steps up during training camp.
All right, let's get to our game here.
Yes.
I will let you choose offense or defense first, Mr. Citak.
Let's just start with offense.
All right, so let's go quarterback first.
Rip
And
the Band-Aid
my
off.
guess is that we're going to have the same order here. I have Dak Prescott and the Cowboys quarterback room at number 1 with 4 points, and I have Jalen Hurts in the Eagles quarterback room second with 3 points. Since we don't know what Jaden Daniels is yet, and this is not a, who would you rather have for the next 3 years exercise. This is a who would you rather have for playing football this year exercise. I put Daniel Jones ahead of Jaden Daniels.
So we're actually completely different on this one.
Really? All right. What do you got for me? I like it.
I have Jalen Hurts number 1.
Really? If you were building a team, you would pick Hurts before Prescott at this point.
I believe so.
Ah, interesting.
Yes. I just, Dak's been around the league now. What is he going into year 8?
It might even be 9.
9,
yeah.
And last year was his best season, or probably his best statistical regular season.
Oh, yeah, second MVP voting.
Yeah, but he just, I don't know, he just still doesn't. Maybe it's just because of the playoffs, the performance in the playoffs from Dak, or the lack of a performance in the playoffs.
So Hurts' success in the playoffs is what puts you over the top on Dak.
But Hurts has been in the league for a lot less than Dak Prescott has.
Okay.
Dak has had a lot more opportunities to make it to the playoffs and to perform in the playoffs than Jalen Hurts. And look, my opinion on Jalen Hurts likely is heavily, influenced by the amount of firepower that they have in that offense. But if I had to choose right now, because I think primarily because of the dual threat ability. I mean, you get the ball on the 1 yard line, and granted, a lot of it has to do with the Eagles' offensive line. But when you get the ball on the 1 yard line, you know what's coming, and you just can't stop it. Jalen Hurts is going to have a 1 yard rushing touchdown. I would say 19 out of 20 times. So I'm giving the slight edge to Jalen Hurts over Dak Prescott there.
My worry with Hurts, to be honest with you, is he's been banged up a lot at the end of the last 2 years, and I don't know how long he can sustain the running part of his game, given how the end of the last 2 years have gone.
I hear that, and I do think he can decrease the rushing a little bit in terms of, especially now that they signed Saquon Barkley. Maybe he doesn't take, 20 carries from the 1 yard line. They do the tush push. Maybe they hand it off to Saquon at least first and give him an opportunity to score. That would save a lot of wear and tear on Jalen Hurts. But even if you take out a lot of those 1 yard rushing plays, he's still a fantastic mobile quarterback and rushing quarterback.
He is.
From, further, like his own side of the field. I mean, he gashes opposing defenses. He'll, run the ball for 10, 15, 20 yards, slide down or go out of bounds. It's not only about, the 1 yard runs.
I know that. Yeah, I mean, what he does for the run game with the read option is huge. I mean, that he helped, develop that running game under Shane Steichen. I'll just always air to the guy that I think is the better thrower of the football, and that's why I lean towards Prescott.
In that aspect, I agree. I would, just pure passing, I would say Dak over Hurts, but when you put it all together, I got to go with Hurts. And then just for 3 and 4, this was one of the ones I told you right before we came on that I did not do any ties
because you love Jaden Daniels.
I do love Jaden Daniels. I love Jaden Daniels. If it was Drake May that ended up in Washington instead of Jaden Daniels, then Daniel Jones would have easily been number 3. This was the one of the positions where I came so close to doing a tie. I did give the slight edge to Jaden Daniels just because of how impressive he looked at LSU last year, and because when we skip a few positions when we get to the wide receivers, and I wanted to incorporate Malik Neighbors into my rankings, I didn't want to say for one position that he's never done it on the field before, so I can't on the NFL field, so I can't rank him that high, but then do the opposite when it came to Malik Neighbors. So I gave Jaden Daniels the slight edge over Daniel Jones. That's not anything against Daniel Jones. As you said, the whole pre-draft process, how much I've loved and how high I was on Jaden Daniels.
Love Jaden Daniels.
I'm just a big Jaden Daniels fan.
I know you are. All right, running back. Eagles with Saquon Barkley. He had dominated this running back category in years past with the Giants, and I still give him the nod here in this conversation. I have Washington coming in at number 3 with the combination of Eckler and Robinson. I think it's a good 1-2 punch, a quick guy that can catch combined with a big bruising back. I have the Giants in number 2 with Devin Singletary. I think it was a very solid NFL starter. We like what we've seen out of Tyrone Tracy. And then the Dallas Cowboys are last with, Rico Dowdle, who I think is probably your early down back. You have Ezekiel Elliott back, who's more of a short yardage guy at this point in his career. So that's how I've ranked. I have Philly, Washington, Giants, and then Cowboys.
I have exactly the same. Philly, Washington, Giants, Cowboys. The Cowboys, again, Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle, that is not a running back room that's going to scare me.
Nope.
I'm sorry.
Agreed.
Saquon Barkley, as much as it hurts to say it because, he's no longer here, he's easily the best running back in the division. He has been for years now, and he still is. He's just playing for another team.
Yeah, the Eagles used to challenge the Giants in this category because of their depth. They had so many running backs they could throw in there, but now they have Saquon and they have guys behind them.
Yeah, I was going to say,
now.
Kenneth Gainwell is a solid running back as well. He's not, some Joe Schmo coming off the street.
And I was a big Will Shipley fan coming out of Clemson, too. Their rookie 5th-round pick, so I'm with you on that.
And I agree about Washington. I think Austin Eckler still has a little bit of tread left on the tire, even if it's just primarily as a pass catcher and not so much, getting 15-plus carries a game.
Yeah, he might only play on 3rd downs, which would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Robinson fits the mold perfectly of, sort of a bell cow back, at least in terms of the running back carries. So I have to give the slight edge to the combination of those two over Devin Singletary. But you know how much I also am high on Tyrone Tracy. That might take, a year before he really starts showing out. But I do have confidence in the direction of the Giants running back room.
Speaking of which, the most recent Giant podcast is up. It is my interview with Purdue head coach and the running back coach. They do a lot of really interesting stuff on Tyrone Tracy. So you can find the Giants Huddle podcast. That's brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. Giants app, giants.com/podcast. Just search for Giants Huddle podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And again, it was a really fun interview. Probably going over half an hour with those two guys, right, Pierce? Between the two of them, we go the head coach first. Then we go the running backs coach, really good insight on Tyrone Tracy. And I'm trying to temper my enthusiasm, but I'm not at your level yet. I don't think anyone's at your level. But I am.
You'll get there during training camp.
I do have the fact that he's snuck in there and gotten some first team opportunities here early on passing downs. And Brian Dable went out of his way to say good things about him on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday or was it last week? I don't remember. I think
it was Tuesday.
It was Tuesday.
It was Tuesday.
So I think all that matters. As I don't think Devin Singletary is a guy you want 25, 20, 22 touches a game. You probably want him closer to 17-ish or 15 to 17. Yep. And I think Tyrone Tracy can kind of pick up the rest of those. Let's go to wide receiver, Mr. Citak. Why don't you go first on your wide receiver
Okay.
rankings?
Wide receiver, I have Philadelphia at number 1.
Me too.
A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory there.
Then not a lot of depth behind them now, though. They've lost a lot of the guys to back them up.
That's true. I see, Paris Campbell could be their third wide receiver now. And obviously we know he was here last year, and whether it was wasn't a good fit or whatever, he just did not do much all season.
Johnny Wilson and Nia Smith, 2 rookies. So
Johnny Wilson is an interesting rookie.
Tight end, maybe?
Maybe he's we'll have to see how he develops. But yeah, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, that alone is enough to get them number 1.
Me too.
I then have the Giants number 2.
Really?
And this is going back to the quarterback debate, because CeeDee Lamb, between the Giants and the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb is the most talented wide receiver of the two teams. But I think Malik Neighbors is number 2. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is number 3.
Ahead of Brandon Cooks already.
Ooh,
that's a step too far for me.
I am just going based off of what I saw at the end of last season. I think that is the real Wan'Dale Robinson. We started to see it in that last game, his rookie year, the game he tore his ACL, and then we started to see it again at the very end of last year, the last 5-6 weeks. He even said it to the media yesterday. He said, the beginning of the season, I really didn't feel like myself, but once we got about halfway through, a little bit past halfway mark, I really started getting the confidence back in myself, and the production showed on the field. So I think Wan'Dale Robinson could have a very big year this year. So that's why I have, and then you plus Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys, Brandon Cooks is a very solid veteran receiver.
No, Giants have more depth than Dallas at the position. That's for sure.
That's why I gave the Giants a slight edge over Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Commanders coming in number 4. Terry McLaurin's great, but the rest of those receivers, Jahan Dotson hasn't really shown much since getting into the league. Maybe Luke McCaffrey turns into something, but for now, they're at the bottom of the NFC East.
What's up? I'm John Wall.
And I'm CJ Toledano, and we're starting a new podcast presented by DraftKings called Point Game. We're now joined by 3-time NBA Sixth Man of the Year, elite bucket getter. Let's please welcome Jamal Crawford to Point Game. King of the Court one-on-one tournament. If they had it back in your prime, do you think you could have took it all?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think I could have took it all, but I think I would have shocked a lot of people. I think Kobe and everybody in their prime, Kobe would win a one-on-one contest.
Yeah, because you got to think, he's going to guard. He don't care about guarding.
He's going to guard.
He's going to guard. Like, you see him in the Olympics, he's going to guard. And then on top of that.
I'm not guarding like that, CJ.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sam Cassell to Point Game.
I remember you came out from crying, tears, crying. I mean, he was in a culture shock. And then he's going through withdrawals about winning.
Remember what I told you? I said, OG, you think I can get paid and go back and play in college because it ain't it?
Check out Point Game with John Wall and CJ Toledano on the iHeartRadio app, DraftKings YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So I have Philly at 1. I have Dallas at 2, just because I think CeeDee Lamb, you could argue, is the best wide receiver in the division. I think him and A.J. Brown are really like neck and neck. Which guy's better? I think they're probably about even in terms of both being good at different ways, but they're both excellent players.
That's fair.
I still think Brandon Cooks is if you're looking for just production this year and guarantee what you're going to get out of the guy, I think he would be an immediate walk-in starter for the Giants, just because I still think he's a good player. So I probably think a little more highly of Cooks than you do. That's why I have the Cowboys at 3. And then I have the Giants and Washington tied. This is one of the ones that I had trouble with, because I love Terry McLaurin. I think if you put him on the Giants, he's the number 1 wide receiver, and it's not close. I would go Neighbors next. And then I mean, do we know that Wan'Dale Robinson is better than Jahan Dotson?
I think so.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Dotson's had more. They were drafted the same year, right? No, Dotson's been in the league 2 years and Wan'Dale for 3. And Dotson has...
No, they both had 2 seasons so far.
Oh, that's right. Correct. Yes. So, for me, I don't know. I just think Dotson's been a little bit more productive, and I don't think he has... I don't think he's had a great situation around him either with the quarterback situation in Washington. So I have Dotson slightly ahead of Wan'Dale, but then you have Hyatt and Slayton, right? And they're better than anyone else Washington has. So that can be balances out for me. So I gave them the tie at 1.5 points each at the wide receiver position.
All right. Well, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I do agree. Terry McLaurin, he could be arguably the best receiver on many teams across
he's great.
the NFL.
Love Terry McLaurin.
I saw enough from Malik Neighbors so far to know that he is a number 1 receiver, and I think even if it takes a little bit of time, will be a very good number 1 receiver in the NFL.
Zacchaeus, by the way, isn't a bad 3 for Washington either. He's actually a pretty decent number 3 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with the Giants' depth, and I just think Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson, especially at the top of the depth chart, they're going to show the NFL this year that they are a very talented and maybe not one of the top 5 wide receiver duos, because there are some amazing wide receiver duos around the NFL. But I think they're going to, at least put themselves somewhat in the conversation.
They have the potential to be the second best wide receiver group in the division. I just haven't seen enough yet to place that bet.
I just think even with the Giants, whatever you want to say about the quarterback position for the Giants, the skill sets for those 2 guys don't really require to have some amazing quarterback play. They just need to get the ball in their hands.
No, you're right about that.
And they're both great at creating separation, which I think is going to be a big boost to Daniel Jones as the quarterback as well. So we'll see what happens.
Let's go to the tight end position here, Matt. I'll go first. I think Dallas Goedert's the best tight end in the division, so I put the Eagles at 1. I put Dallas at 2. I think Jason Ferguson's a really good player at tight end, and they have Luke Schoonmaker, Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, who was a second-round pick last year. Peyton Hendershot's pretty decent. So I put Dallas 2. I put Washington at 3. Zach Ertz, he's there. He's a little over the hill. I don't know how much he has left in the tank. Do they also have C.J. Uzomah, if I recall, their backup?
No, he signed with the Eagles.
Oh, he was the Eagles' backup. Thank you. Ben Sinnott was their second-round pick. He's the backup to Zach Ertz. Yeah. Pardon me. So I have them at 3, and then the Giants just because, Darren Waller retires. There's a lot of questions at that position. I have the Giants at bringing up the rear.
Yeah, I'll go the reverse order. The same with the Giants at number 4. If Darren Waller hadn't retired, if he was returning, they would be higher on the list. But, between Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson, those guys could develop into a solid, tight end duo. But for those, especially with Theo Johnson as a 4th-round pick, Bellinger's a 4th-round pick 2 years ago, I got to see it from them first.
I would really caution fans expecting too much out of Theo Johnson in his rookie year.
Yeah, I mean, we talk all the time about it. It takes tight ends more time than other positions to really get going in the NFL. Don't let Sam Laporta's success last year make you think that all rookie tight ends have the potential to come in and immediately be one of the best pass catchers potentially at the position in the entire league.
Raw as a pass catcher. Penn State didn't throw the ball a ton. So there's a lot to learn there for him.
Yeah, so I agree. Giants at number 4. Commanders at number 3. I'm with you on that as well. Zach Ertz, he's just old.
Yeah, he's old.
I do like Ben Sinnott, but again, we were just talking about rookie tight ends, especially mid-round picks.
Yep.
Got to see it. The
second-round pick for Ben Sinnott. That I wouldn't say that's a mid-rounder.
Oh, you're right. He was projected to be a little bit later, but he went in the second round. You're right.
Commanders like him.
Yep. Hey,
we'll see how quickly he can play.
I like him too, but now the only difference I have is I have the Cowboys at number 1.
All right. Why?
And I like Dallas Goedert a lot. I think he's a very solid, reliable veteran tight end. But I saw enough for Jake Ferguson last year to know that he's going to be a very good tight end. He's already a very good tight end.
He's a fun player.
He is, 71 receptions, 761 yards, 5 touchdowns last year. I think he's going to, this year, potentially be definitely a top 5 tight end in the NFL.
Ooh, make note if you're in a fantasy football league with Matt Citak here.
Luckily, my fantasy football the other teams, I don't think are watching the podcast. Not many of them are Giants fans, so unfortunately. But yeah, I really like Jake Ferguson. This has nothing to do with Dallas Goedert. He's very good. I just think Jake Ferguson is going to be great. So that's why I have the Cowboys at number 1.
No, I think that's fair. All right, let's go to the – I like how we have some differences here. It's good. All right, let's go to the offensive line. I mean, I think it's hard to argue, Matt, that Philly's not first tier.
Yep.
And then I'll let you do the rest of your rankings after Philly at 1.
Yeah, so Philly at 1. Then I have the Cowboys at number 2.
Me too.
I then have, which I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, I actually have the Giants at number 3.
So do I.
And Washington at number 4.
I have the same exact rankings. Explain why.
So obviously, we all know last year the Giants' offensive line surrendered the most sacks in the NFL, 20 more sacks than anyone else. But I think the second
one of the highest
sacks,
numbers in history, by the way.
But I'm pretty sure the team that finished at number 2 was Washington.
Yeah, that sounds right. But Sam Howell got sacked. I think the Giants gave up the most sacks, but Sam Howell was sacked more than any other quarterback.
Because the Giants split time between
Correct.
3 quarterbacks. But the Giants as we've spoken about at length the last couple of months, they went out and put a lot of resources towards the offensive line between John Runyon, Jermaine Illuminor, Aaron Stinney, even Austin Schlottman, Matt Nelson. Like the list goes on and on. They brought in a lot of new bodies on the offensive line. And while Washington, they made some moves on the offensive line as well. They signed Tyler Biadasz at center. They have Sam Cosmi at right guard, who's been, I think, very good. Andrew Wiley is, solid, decent right tackle-ish. But Andrew Thomas is an all-pro. I think John Michael Schmitz could take a step, even if it's not a huge step, a step this year. And then having Runyon and Illuminor as 2 veterans, I think that's going to really help just solidify the offensive line. And obviously, the question mark is at right tackle with Evan Neal. We need to see him on the field at training camp, and then see what he can do.
And that could end up being Illuminor when all is said and done if Evan Neal doesn't work out.
Even if he doesn't work out, Illuminor kicks out to right tackle, and then you have guys like Aaron Stinney or Josh Azudu.
Or Neal could play guard.
Or Neal, competing for that open guard position. So that's why I have the Giants at number 3 over Washington.
No, I think you hit it. I think of all the things Washington did this offseason, their lack of attention to the offensive line in general is kind of what has me a little bit concerned, especially since Jaden Daniels at LSU played behind basically a brick wall where he rarely got pressured and he had great protection. They might have their 2 offensive tackles both picked in the top 10 in this year's upcoming draft. That's Will Campbell's one of them. He might be a top 5 player in the draft. He's that good. So I do worry about Daniels behind that offensive line just a little bit. So I'm with you. I have the same exact rankings as you do. And you didn't really mention Dallas. I'll mention them real quick. They have some questions. They might be starting a rookie left tackle and a rookie center. Now, Tyler Smith at left guard is awesome. Zach Martin at right guard is awesome. Terrence Steele at right tackle is fine. But again, they're starting theoretically a rookie left tackle and a rookie center in Cooper Beebe and I'm sorry?
Tyler Guyton.
Tyler Guyton, thank you. I wanted to say Tyler Williams. I knew that wasn't true. Tyler Guyton out there at left tackle. So they have some holes there, and it'll be curious to see. Now, Dallas has done a really good job of drafting and developing offensive linemen. That's one of the reasons they've been able to, sustain some of these losses. But we'll see if they're able to do it again this year. And Philly is just solid across the board. They got two really good tackles still in my lot, and Lane Johnson. Cam Jurgens will just snap in there at center. They'll be fine. Not as dominant as they were before. Landon Dickerson, they just signed to a big money contract. Absolutely. They're very, very good. So
right guard is the one somewhat question mark.
Who do they have in there right now as right guard?
Tyler Steen.
Interesting. Let me see who else is on that depth
Matt
chart.
Hennessy.
Just so I'm clear on the notes, it's Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders.
Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders.
Correct, and we both have it the same. That is correct. Yeah. They have that second guard position is interesting. Because they lost Sam Malu 2 years ago. So, we'll see what they end up doing in that second guard spot. All right, let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball.
Sorry, real quick.
Yeah, please.
Mekhi Becton as well.
Oh, that's right. And you know what? It's funny.
Backup.
They've been using him at guard. So don't be surprised if he's the guy that slides into that. I forgot Becton was there. I've been reading about how he's been being used in camp. And they're talking about maybe using him as one of the starting guards if he can stay healthy long enough to obviously play the position.
And if there's one, offensive line coach that could really help revive his career, it's Jeff Stoutland in Philly.
By the way, folks, June 20th, Giants 100, A Night with Legends. Tickets are still available, Giants.com. Go to Ticketmaster.com. A lot of Giants legends will be there. Bob Papa host. You hear from Brian Dable, Joe Shane, players, legends. It'll be a great event. There'll be merchandise there for you to purchase, artifacts from the Hall of Fame, a lot of good stuff. Go to Ticketmaster.com to get tickets. It's not a bad seat, guys, in that theater at Madison Square Garden. It's a small venue. Make sure you get there. It'll be an event that you do not soon forget. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball here. Mr. Citak, defensive tackles. I had to put Washington first here. I did. And I know Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen did not play as well last year, but then they drafted Jerzon Newton on top of that, and it's the third guy. They didn't have the third guy. Maybe I wouldn't have put them 1. But once they got Newton in there, I decided to put Washington at 1. I put the Giants at number 2 on my list just because Dexter Lawrence is arguably the best defensive tackle in football now that Aaron Donald's not here. But you don't know who that second guy is yet, and that does matter in terms of that competition. Eagles at number 2. No more Fletcher Cox. We've been staring Fletcher Cox dead in the face here.
Number 3.
Eagles number 3. What did I say? 2. Yeah, I'm sorry. 2 points for the Eagles at number 3 is what I meant. I'm sorry. And they don't have Fletcher Cox there anymore, right?
Yeah.
So you got 2 young guys from Georgia. Jalen Carter, who they drafted last season, and then the year before, they drafted Jordan Davis. So can those guys do enough? And Milton Williams is in there as well to elevate them. I don't know. And then the Cowboys are a mess. Like, at defensive tackle, it's probably their weakest position along with off-ball linebacker, and I'll tease it. I have 1 point, last place for the Cowboys at both those spots. Mozzie Smith, I liked him coming out. They cut him from 330 to 200, and they played at 290 last year. Why they did that, I have no idea, but they did. Osio Digizou is a really good player, but then after that, you look at their depth chart at defensive tackle here, Matt, and it is a bit barren. Justin Rogers, Chauncey Golston, Carl Davis, Denzel Daxon. If you haven't heard of any of those guys, that's okay. Not many people have. So I have them in last there at defensive tackle.
Okay, so I'll start at number 4. Agreed with Dallas Cowboys. Don't need to add anything else. You nailed it. Eagles at number 3. I do think Jalen Carter, he played great last year. I think he's going to potentially take another step this year. And I don't know if I was with you or with Paul like a month ago, where I was talking about Jordan Davis. I was with Paul. I was talking about Jordan Davis. So he was photographed at a Eagles charity event like about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and he looked like he was in amazing shape.
That'd be the first time.
He trimmed down significantly. I mean, that was the biggest thing really taking him down since he got into the NFL.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of his coming out. Jeff Fiegels loved him. I think I had a second round grade on him. I was not, but if he really has gotten in shape and that allows him to play a little bit faster, that'll help him.
Look, it was at some bike riding charity event, so he was wearing a very tight, bike riding outfit.
So you implying he might have been wearing the Spanx?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like he was wearing kind of Spanx, but it did look like he was in good shape. So he could have a bounce back season. He was my pick as like a bounce back guy when Paul and I had to show.
Oh, I like that one.
Bounce back players.
Yeah, I like that.
But I do still have Eagles at number 3. I have Washington at number 2. And this was another one that I came very close to putting Giants and Commanders tied. But I went with Washington at number 2. I do like Johnny Newton or Jerzon Newton. He's the 3rd defensive tackle, as you mentioned. The other 2 guys, though, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, they just have not been put it together consistently year in and year out.
And I agree. They were not as dominant last year, especially. I agree with you.
And Dexter Lawrence, as you mentioned, I think it's him or Chris Jones, and maybe Quinnen Williams is the best defensive tackle.
But it's not a one-man position.
No, it's not. But the reason I have the Giants number 1 is, and I've talked about this on the show before, I really like the Jordan Phillips signing. I know injuries have kind of dragged him down the last couple seasons. He's not had a fully healthy season, I believe, since 2019. But that season, he had 9.5 sacks.
He's a good player.
I think if he can stay healthy, he will eventually earn that spot next to Dexter Lawrence, at least on passing situations. And especially with the talent that they have between Dexter Lawrence and then the 2 edge guys, or even 3 edge guys, accounting Azeez Ojulari, I think Jordan Phillips could become a very solid number 2 defensive tackle. And I also I like Jordan Riley and DJ Davidson, Ryder Anderson. Those are younger guys that obviously have a lot of development still to come or need to develop in order to really become, solidified NFL contributors. But at least from Jordan Riley, I've seen flashes that I think he can put it together under the guidance of Andre Patterson.
Fair enough. All right, why don't you do your edge rankings?
All right, so I also just want to note for the edge, I think this is the strongest position in the division.
This was very tough, except for Washington. This was very tough to parse. They were an easy last place for me.
I have them at number 4 too, and I'll get to them. I'm not as down on them as you are though.
Okay.
But they are my number 4. But number 1, I have the Giants. Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, are gonna become right up there with one of the best pass rushing duos in the entire league, and I think they're both gonna benefit greatly from having Dexter Lawrence playing in between them, because between those 3 guys, defenses are not going to be able to double team more than one of them at a time. Most likely, a lot of passing situations, 2 of those 3 guys are going to be in one-on-one situations, and I'll sign up for that any day of the week. Number 2, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Micah Parsons is one of the best defensive players in the NFL. DeMarcus Lawrence, while he's on the older side, shown that he's still got some gas left in the tank.
Very underrated.
Very underrated. The 2 of them, again, that's another very solid, very good edge rushing duo. I have the Eagles at number 3. I really like the signing of Bryce Huff. Obviously, I love that the Giants traded for Brian Burns, but had we not done that trade, Bryce Huff was the edge rusher that I was hoping we would go after.
What do you think about trading out Reddick for Huff, which is basically what they did, right? They traded Reddick and they signed Huff.
I'm okay with it because, as we see now with Reddick holding out from the Jets for minicamp and stuff, he wants a lot of money, it seems.
Are you sure he wasn't just on vacation with Aaron Rodgers? No.
The reports out there are that he would like a lot of money. And I thought the reported numbers that Bryce Huff got, I believe it was like $17 million a year.
Yeah, something like that.
Around there. And apparently, again, these are all reports, so who knows what's actually true. But apparently Reddick is saying he wants somewhere like 25 to 30 million. And he's been great. He's been great. Don't get me wrong. Last year he put up the production.
In that case, it's a good switch out.
Yeah. And I think Bryce Huff is a rising player, ascending player.
If you're the Jets, how do you trade for him if you're not ready to just give him the contract that he wants?
That's the question that everyone seems to be asking now. Yeah. So Philly, number 3, Bryce Huff. Who is the other? I don't even know who their other. Oh, and they have Brandon Graham still, who obviously is definitely towards the end of his career, but still at the very least a solid pass rusher.
And Nolan Smith, their draft pick 2 years ago.
And Nolan Smith, yep. So yeah, they take number 3. Washington, we both agree, number 4. The reason I say I'm not as down on them as you are is because I just really like the signing of Dorrance Armstrong.
Yeah, he's a solid player.
He's a very solid player. He had his best seasons under Dan Quinn with the Cowboys. Obviously, Dan Quinn, head coach of the Washington now, brought Dorrance Armstrong with him as one of their first signings in free agency. I think he could be a double-digit sack guy in that defense, especially with, as we were talking about, they have a very talented interior defensive line as well, which is going to attract a lot of attention. Dante Fowler, still a solid pass rusher. Clelin Ferrell and him, I'm not really high on.
Good against the run.
He's good against the run, that's true. But as a pass rusher, Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler, I think, are the 2 best pass rushers.
And I think those guys will be on the field on third down. I think Ferrell's more of a early down guy. All right, so our rankings are a little bit different here. I like that. So I have Dallas at 1. Because Micah Parsons is the best pass rusher, you could argue in the league. He's certainly right up there with the T.J. Watts and Myles Garrett and all those other guys at the top of the edge rusher rankings. And I think DeMarcus Lawrence is still one of the best defensive ends against the run. He'll still get anywhere between 7 and 10 sacks most seasons. He's been healthy the last couple of years. And their depth isn't as good because they lost the aforementioned Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler to the Washington Commanders. But Sam Williams is a guy that has some promise. They have Marshawn Nealand, who I think both of us liked in the second round of the draft. So I have them at number 1, mostly because Micah is Micah, and he's just really, really good. Though I got to be honest with you, the little back and forth with him and Mike Zimmer, don't love that. If you're a Cowboy fan, I'd be nervous about that one. He's like, I want to do things my way. He wants to do things his way, and we'll meet in the middle. Mike Zimmer does not seem like somebody that likes to meet in the middle.
No, I don't think so.
He wants people to come to him. He's the coach. He's in charge. So I'm curious to see how that relationship plays out. Then I had the Giants and the Eagles tied. I couldn't parse this one out. Josh Sweat is quietly really, really good. You could argue from a production standpoint, he's been just as good as Brian Burns has the last 2 or 3 years. Total sacks and just pressure rate, stuff like that. They've been very, very, very similar over the last couple of years in terms of sack numbers and how productive they've been. And you throw in, we talked about the 4 guys that the Eagles throw out there. Nolan Smith is somebody that I like. He hasn't done anything yet, obviously. And Bryce Huff is a sack machine. Brandon Graham, he only plays, He can still rush the passer in his 20 snaps a game. Still a good player. And, Kayvon Thibodeau had a big year last year. I want to see him do it again. Azeez Ojulari's had trouble staying healthy, so I think the Eagles have a little bit more depth, though I do like, if it was just the 2 Eagles starters versus the 2 Giants starters, I think I would take the Giants starters, but I like the Eagles' depth a little bit better at that spot. So I evened them out, I tied them, and then I put Washington last. Inside linebacker, I got the Giants in 1, Bobby Okereke. I think he's the best inside linebacker in the division. Mike McFadden, solid, needs to miss fewer tackles, but solid player. I have Washington at number 2, and I know Bobby Wagner's not the same player, and that's fine. Frankie Louvo, I think, was a good free agent addition. Jamin Davis is now their 3rd linebacker. He's not a bad player. He's fine. He did not live up to his first-round pedigree, but he's okay. So I have Washington coming at number 2. I have the Eagles at number 3, and then Dallas, again, we talked about, they just haven't invested in a couple of spots. That's one of them. They bring Eric Kendricks in as a free agent. He's a little over the hill. Damone Clark, Maris Leofau, the rookie, DeMarvion Overshown, their 3rd-round pick last year. He tore his ACL at the end of camp last year. Just not a lot of names in there, a linebacker that you get excited about. So I got Dallas coming in last year.
Yeah, I have Dallas at number 4 as well. Same exact reasons you said. I will say, though, Eric Kendricks did have his best seasons of his career under Mike Zimmer.
100%.
Who is now the defensive coordinator, as you mentioned. So if there's a guy that has a good chance of bringing out whatever's left in Eric Kendricks, it's Mike Zimmer. But I do agree they're number 4. Philadelphia, also I agree, number 3. They've got guys there. They signed Devin White, who
he's overrated to me.
I wanted him to be good.
Yeah, correct.
I wanted him to be so good since he got drafted.
He's the king of the splash play, but he's just not consistent enough.
He just hasn't put it together on a consistent basis.
I'm with you.
Agree 100%. Nakobe Dean
can't stay healthy.
Yeah. And then Zach Bond, Oren Burks, decent guy. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. they drafted in the 5th round, and again, just seeing Jeremiah Trotter in the Eagles jersey brings back bad memories.
Yeah,
it scares me a little bit. The only difference between our rankings is I have Washington at number 1.
Ahead of the Giants, really?
Ahead of the Giants. And I agree that Bobby Okereke probably is the top inside linebacker in the division, but I went with Washington because of Bobby Wagner, mostly. Bobby Wagner,
he's just slowed down so much.
He was 2nd-team All-Pro last year.
Yeah, I think that's a reputation pick.
I mean, if you just look at his page on Pro Football Reference, the last
it's crazy. I know.
is All-Pro.
I know.
And now he's back with Dan Quinn, who
he played
with in Seattle.
He doesn't run quite as well as he used to, and that worries me.
That's true. Obviously,
he's still so
he's
smart,
getting up there in
though,
age. He's about to turn 34, but I mean, I think he still has plenty of left in the tank. So
that's fair.
And you mentioned Frankie Louvu. That was one of, I think, the most underrated signings of the entire offseason.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He's a very, very solid player, and I think Dan Quinn is gonna, help take him even to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think while Bobby Okereke might be the top linebacker, I think both of those guys I would rank above Micah McFadden.
Mm-hmm.
I do have the Giants second though, because of everything I just mentioned. Bobby Okereke, I think is still getting better as a player, and Micah McFadden, he could take a step this year.
Yeah.
Where when we're having this conversation next year, the Giants could be my number 1 then. But for now, I still need to see a little bit more from Micah McFadden before I'd be ready to put them ahead of Washington.
By the way, Alex, Tim, and Jeff, I know you guys have been holding the whole show. I appreciate your patience. We will get to you at the end. If we have to go a little long to do it, we will. We will get to you, I promise. But this is a good exercise. I want to get through it. All right, let's go to corner here, Matt. Why don't you give your cornerback rankings?
All right. To start it off, I have the Dallas Cowboys.
Me too.
Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland. I mean, the two of those guys alone are enough to give them the number 1 spot.
And Jordan Lewis is solid. He's been a solid slot for a long time.
He's been solid, but those two are the reason why I have.
100%.
I think we both have them at number 1. Trayvon Diggs, he's coming off the injury, right?
Yeah, he tore his ACL in camp last year. But
yeah.
I think he's much like Daniel Jones. I think he's expected to be good to go.
Yeah, especially it happened before the season started. So
correct.
He'll be ready to
go.
It's
amazing with ACLs how quickly these guys come back.
Yeah, and I mean Deron Bland last year his crazy season.
Yeah, last year
he
had all the pick sixes.
Yeah,
you can make the argument that he should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year.
9 interceptions, 5 of which he returned for touchdowns. That's just downright impressive.
One defensive player, and look, I know a lot of that's random, but you know what? Those weren't a lot of gift interceptions for him, where people were like air-mail on the ball. He was like jumping routes, making legitimate plays on most of those interceptions. So
yeah. So, yeah, Dallas number 1. I have Philadelphia at number 2.
Me too.
Between, Darius Slay, they drafted Quinyon Mitchell in the first round. They drafted Cooper DeJean, who I believe is probably going to be their slot corner / just defensive weapon. I think they're going to move him all over the defensive
How they use
backfield.
him and Bradbury will be interesting because I don't think Bradbury's a straight corner for them anymore either. So we'll see how they use
the
those two
reports out
guys.
of Philly have been that Bradbury's been taking reps at safety.
Safety, yep.
So, but still, Bradbury is still there. He definitely took a step back last year, but we'll see if he's got anything left. Avonte Maddox he's a solid slot corner.
Mm-hmm.
So they just have a lot of talented players in that room.
We're on the same page.
Moving on to number 3, I have the Giants.
So do I.
Okay. And, cornerback is not the deepest positions of the Giants.
I love how
right
you said
now.
that like you're like looking like I have the Giants next.
Well, because a few shows ago we were talking about when we did the position rankings just on the Giants. We ranked all of the positions.
The corners are near the bottom.
Corners
I know.
were, I think, at the bottom for both of us. So, but Deontay Banks, I think is going to take a step this year. He showed flashes last season.
Well, Banks is better than anyone on the Commanders, and that to me
Yes.
is what makes the difference here.
Exactly what I was going to say. The number 1 corner for the Commanders is probably Benjamin St-Juste.
Yeah, and he
who's
was
just
benched for the first
not
half of
that
last
good.
year, correct.
So that's why I have Giants at number 3.
I'm with you.
Washington number 4.
No notes. I'm not even going to comment. I'm with you all the way. Safety. This was a tough one for me because I think, you talked about edge being one of the better positions in the division, and I think wide receiver is probably in that mix too. I think both those groups are very strong. Safety might be the weakest position in the division, in my opinion. I just don't think, you don't have one guy, I don't think, on any team that's been in a Pro Bowl. Not one on any of the 4 rosters.
Yeah.
So I went Dallas first just because I like their depth there. Malik Hooker's a good player.
Yeah.
Donovan Wilson's a good player.
Yep.
Marquise Bell is a good player. He was linebacker last year, again, moved back to safety. Even Wanye Thomas made some plays for them last year. So just because I think Dallas has 4 guys that they feel, or at least 3, that they feel good about playing in a lot of different situations, I decided to go Dallas 1 because of the depth. I went Giants number 2 because I think Jason Pinnock is a good player. I think between Newman and Belton, you have a second and third safety there. I think you're in pretty good shape. I went Eagles 3 just because we don't know what Bradbury is going to give you as a safety, right? C.J. Gardner-Johnson's a good player. Reed Blankenship doesn't do anything for him, to be honest with you. Sidney Brown is fine. Maybe I'm overrating that a little bit. I did have it. I'm looking. I'm like, why would I put the Giants ahead of the Eagles? I didn't. So I have the Eagles 2, Pearson. I'm sorry about that. So the Eagles have 3 points at number 2. Then I have the Giants coming in after that because the Eagles do have a number of guys there, and I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson is probably a little bit better of a player than Pinnock at this point. So that's why I gave the Eagles a little bit of an edge there. I got the Giants at 3, and then I have the Commanders coming in 4th place, where their secondary is still going to be a problem for them this year. Jeremy Chinn's a good player, but Carolina never quite figured out how to use him the right way. I think Dan Quinn will because he likes those kind of big safeties in the box, which I think Jeremy Chinn will be good at. Derek Forrest is fine, but no one else really. Dominique Hampton, a lot of people like him as safety, a rookie coming out of Washington, but for me, their safety spot just doesn't do it for me. So I have again Dallas 1, Philly 2, Giants 3, Washington 4.
Yeah, I have the same exact thing.
All right, no notes.
No notes.
Perfect.
Move on.
We like it. We want to get to the calls here. Coaching was hard for me.
Same.
I'm not gonna lie.
It was very tough.
Because how much do I take playoffs into consideration here? No, I'm serious. Like, how much is because if you don't take playoffs into consideration, Mike McCarthy's the best coach.
True.
His track record's immaculate. They won 12 games 3 straight years. Go back to his time in Green Bay. All he did was win divisions and win football games there. He knows how to run a team. He knows how to, develop quarterbacks. And I like Mike Zimmer as a defensive coordinator. I think he's a good coach. So I put Dallas at 1 here. I wanted to put the Giants at 2. But Nick Sirianni did get the Eagles to a Super Bowl. And Vic Fangio is a really good defensive coordinator. And I think we all have respect for Kellen Moore, who's at least a league average solid offensive coordinator. So even though the Eagles team fell apart at the end of last year, and I think coaching had something to do with that, they've changed both coordinators. With a lot of trepidation, I put the Eagles 2, but I didn't feel good about it. I put the Giants 3 because some of the changes on the staff, obviously, and then I put Washington at number 4 there. And not because I don't think Dan Quinn's a bad coach, by the way. I think he's a good coach. But again, it's a completely new group there that we don't really have much of a feel for yet.
Yeah, I struggled with this one too. I went back and forth between Sirianni and Mike McCarthy at number 1. I gave the edge to Sirianni more so because of the coordinators than Sirianni himself.
No, Vic Fangio's phenomenal.
Vic Fangio is a great defensive coordinator.
He might not be a great human being, apparently, but he's a good defensive coordinator.
Kellen Moore, I think, is a good offensive coordinator. I know, obviously, not so much last year, but I think he had a lot of success for years in Dallas.
Yeah.
I think he is a good offensive coordinator.
I agree.
Nick Sirianni, again, as a person, he would not be number 1, especially after that comment he made.
It's just all the facial expressions and all that.
He's a little obnoxious, but I am giving him.
I feel like
number
he takes
1.
pride in that, though. I feel like he kind of likes being that way a little bit, right? Yeah.
True. But yeah, so Eagles 1, Cowboys 2. Mike Zimmer, I agree, very good defensive coordinator. I like that hire a lot for them. I don't love Brian Schottenheimer as the offensive coordinator. And then, John Fossil, great special teams coordinator.
Bones.
Probably the best.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Giants number 3. Between Brian Dable, Mike Kafka, and I like Shane Bowen. Shane Bowen's defense. Tennessee had a lot of success, at least in some facets of the game. Not everything, but Commanders number 4. And again, I agree with you. I like Dan Quinn. It's just he's the one new head coach of the group.
Yeah,
and he hasn't been with this team before, with the coaching staff. I think Dan Quinn, could rise from this position going into next season, but I need to see it first.
I'm also not a Cliff Kingsbury guy.
Yeah, I know.
So
you're not.
I that was an automatic demotion for me. And I'll say this: I think, and he just hasn't had a chance to show it here with the Giants. He did show it with Buffalo. I think you give all the coaches in the division the same offensive talent. I think Brian Dable would get the most out of the offensive talent than any of the coaches in the division.
Easily.
So
agreed.
He just hasn't had the pieces here yet to do that, in my opinion. But I think he could easily vault up this list very, very quickly. He's such a good offensive coach. He gets, just go back to the player report cards, right? He scored great, marks from the players and how he treats them and how he deals with the players here. Again, but we have to at some point take record into consideration, right, and results. Yeah. So I think Brian Dable is a great coach. I have all the faith in the world in him. He's an awesome offensive coach. But, at some point, you have to look at results, and that's why I think Sirianni and McCarthy ultimately get the edge. Finally, special teams, and I'll just do this really quick. We don't need to break this down, super hardcore here. I have Dallas at 1 just because Brandon Aubrey was a freaking machine last year. He's kicking like 60-yard field goals like it's nothing. And Kevontae Turpin is a really good return guy. So that to me, those are two kind of difference-making players, so I put them first.
I have them 1 as well.
I put the Giants number 2, to be honest with you. I think Graham Gano, I know he had a bad year last year. I'm going to chalk that up to the injuries. He's a super consistent kicker. This was close with the Eagles, in my opinion. I think the Giants have a good number of guys they can choose from in terms of kick and punt return between Gunnar Olszewski. I think Tyrone Chasey Jr. can get in there a kick returner. I think Jamie Gillen was solid last year. I affiliate number 3. Jake Elliott, I think, is a good kicker. Their punter, Braden Mann, Britton Covey and Isaiah Rodgers as their returners. They don't do much for me. And then I have Washington coming in 4th here. The reason I put Philly ahead of them is because I just like Elliott a little bit more than I like. I guess their place kicker is new this year, huh?
Yeah,
Ramiz Ahmed. So when
I was looking this up before, I've never heard of this guy.
Neither had I. And when I see rookie field goal kicker, you automatically last in special teams rankings because I can't trust you, and that's the most important spot of any of these special team spots. So if you're a rookie kicker, automatically last, and that's why Dallas was last to me last year because I didn't know what Brandon Aubrey was. Then he showed up and he looked like the second coming of the best kicker in the history of the league. But that's why I have Washington last.
Yeah. So agreed with Dallas at number 1. Don't have anything to add to what you said. I actually have Philadelphia at number 2.
Okay.
I think Jake Elliott is just a great kicker. I actually think Braden Mann is I guess I'm a little higher on him as a punter than you are.
I honestly, I've got to admit, I did not do a lot of work on Braden Mann.
That's fair. I just think he's a very solid punter and has been just a little bit more consistent than Jamie Gillen. And in terms of the return game, you mentioned Britton Covey and Isaiah Rodgers. We don't know for sure if they're going to be the returners because number 2 on the depth chart, it says, is Cooper DeJean and Will Shipley.
That's a good point.
And if those two guys are back there,
good point.
I have a lot more confidence in those, especially Shipley as the kick returner.
Good point.
I think he could be amazing on special teams. So I gave them the slight edge over the Giants at number 3, and then Commanders at number 4. same exact reason you said, rookie kicker I've never heard of. You get number 4.
All right, did you add up your point totals by any chance?
That I did not do.
Okay, well, I give you mine. Can you add yours up real quick and see? Or Pearson, do you have them added on the spreadsheet here so we can take a look at that? Oh, Pearson added them up for you. Perfect. All right, good. So let's see. Where are your? Is this a little further down the spreadsheet here, Pearson?
I don't have them added up. I just have the orders.
Okay. Well, I will give you mine. I'll give you the total number, Citak. You start doing your math on yours, okay?
So if I ranked it 1, that's 4 points.
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Okay.
And again, it goes down the line that way. Right. So the way mine added up is that I have the Eagles and Cowboys a half point apart. I have the Eagles at 36.5 total points. The Cowboys came in at 36. The Eagles, 19 points on offense, 12 on defense. Cowboys are even, believe it or not. 14 points on offense, 14 on defense. Cowboys got the edge on special teams and the coaching staff. So Eagles, 36.5. Cowboys came in at 36. In terms of premium positions, and for premium positions, I counted quarterback, receiver, O-line, D-tackle, edge, corner, and coach. The Cowboys just outdo the Eagles 19 to 18.5 in terms of premium positions. Giants came in third place with 27 points. 8.5 on offense, 13.5 on defense, 3 special teams, 2 coach. That gave them 27. 13 points in the premium positions, which is the key spots. And again, quarterback, receiver, O-line, D-tackle, edge, corner, and coach. 13 points. And then Washington came in last at 20.5 points. 9.5 on the premium positions. Again, that's quarterback, wide receiver, O-line, DT, edge, cornerback, and coach. So 36.5 for the Eagles, 36 for Dallas, 27 for the Giants, 20.5 for Washington, which is kind of where I thought this was going to go. I thought the Eagles would maybe finish a little bit more ahead of Dallas in terms of the rankings, but they ended up finishing about dead even. So, we've kind of talked about there still being a little bit of a tier difference between Philly and Dallas until proven otherwise, and I think after doing this exercise, I still stand there where, the Giants have to show that I'm going to use the expression, Pearson. I've avoided using this most of the offseason until the Giants show they've closed the gap on Dallas and Philadelphia at the top of the division there.
I'm still adding up, so you keep talking.
Okay. How about I do our copy? I'll do that. Guys,
perfect.
Again, if you want Giants and season tickets, go to giants.com/tickets. You can become a ticket member. You stay connected to the season all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2024 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. All right, and don't forget as well, if you like our Giants content, go download Giants TV. It's the Giants' official connected TV streaming app. Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV and the Giants mobile app. Even Paul Dottino has downloaded this, folks, believe it or not. Pearson had to teach him how to do it, but he did it. Make sure you go check that out as well. And again, I mentioned it earlier, Giants 100, Night with Legends, June 20th. Theater at Madison Square Garden. If you're in town, it's going to be a great time. There's no bad seat in the house. Ticketmaster.com. Just search for Giants. It's the first thing that pops up. I think under 100 tickets are left. I was kind of counting the little blue dots on the map the other day, and I think it was under 100. So go check that out, folks, and get those tickets. And trust me, I've seen some of the plans. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a week from today, actually. So make sure you go check that out.
What's up? I'm John Wall.
And I'm CJ Toledano, and we're starting a new podcast presented by DraftKings called Point Game. We're now joined by 3-time NBA Sixth Man of the Year, elite bucket getter. Let's please welcome Jamal Crawford to Point Game. King of the Court one-on-one tournament. If they had it back in your prime, do you think you could have took it all?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think I could have took it all, but I think I would have shocked a lot of people. I think Kobe and everybody in their prime, Kobe would win a one-on-one contest.
Yeah, because you got to think he's going to guard. He don't care about guarding.
He's going to guard.
He's going to guard. Like, you see him in the Olympics, he's going to guard. And then on top of that.
I'm not guarding like that, CJ.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sam Cassell to Point Game.
I remember you came out from crying, tears, crying. I mean, he was in a culture shock. And then he's going through withdrawals about winning.
Remember what I told you? I said, OG, you think I can get paid and go back and play in college? You think I need it?
Check out Point Game with John Wall and CJ Toledano on the iHeartRadio app, DraftKings YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
How you doing on your math there, buddy? Do you want me to take a call?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a call.
I don't even know if this is going to be correct, man.
Okay, well, I'll take a call. It'll give you a chance to check your math and take your time. 201-939-4513. And if anyone knows how to fill time, it's Tim in Charleston. So we're going to go to him first. Tim, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
What's
John,
up, pal?
So don't get scared, but over the last week, I built up about 12 questions, and I'm putting them into little bundles of 3. So first, I want to say, and this is actually part of it. One, I agree with Matt on the wide receivers having the Giants second, and that going back to your position group rankings just with the Giants, I also had the wide receivers second ahead of the defensive tackles.
Okay.
I just want to throw that in there.
Hey, look, Tim, I love the fact that for the first time in a long time, and I think I had the receivers third on my Giant position list, I think they have a real chance for that to be a real strength of the team, which would be the first time in what seems like forever. It would be a really nice change. It's just a shame that you have CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Terry McLaurin all in your division who are all Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers. It makes it tough.
I think 1 to 4, though, we have the deepest, the best deep group.
They have the potential to be, but they haven't shown it yet. That's the key.
Right, and of course, health is a big part of it.
Of course.
So I got 2 things after that, really.
Yes.
One thing that I did was I was marveling in my mind, without doing the numbers, about how young this team is.
Oh,
and
very young.
I broke it down, and this is based on the ages as of this game 1 of the start of the season, right? So I broke down the offense into 13 potential starters, quarterback, running back, 2 tight ends, 4 wide receivers, and then the offensive line.
Sure.
And based on the expected starters, I came out with an average of 24.9 years old.
Wow, 24?
0.9, yeah. And the only 4 guys are only one guy's over 27, and that's Illuminor. And we've got 4 guys who are 27: Slayton Jones, Singletary, and
Runyon,
right?
Okay.
On defense, I just have 12 guys, figuring a nickel defense, 3 defensive linemen, 2 edge rushers, and 2 linebackers.
Sure.
And that group came out with an average of 25.1 years.
That's young. It's a young group, man.
And only one guy over 30, and that's Nacho. He's 31. You got Okereke at 28, and those are the only guys who are 27 or older on the entire defense.
Wow.
And I when I added that up, I was shocked. I was really shocked. I think that, and whatever it does for this year, I think that just really bodes well for the way Shane and Dable are building the team and for the future. So now I've got a couple. I just got a couple of. I don't want to say they're bold predictions necessarily, but I've got Daniel Jones.
All right, write them down, Pearson. You ready to write them down? Bold predictions. You ready? Yep. I think the ones on there. I think the ones on there are for last year, Pearson. So create a new little section here. What do you got, Tim? Lay them on me.
You could decide if they're bold or not. But I got Daniel Jones, assuming he stays healthy all year. I got him for 4,000 yards plus or minus 100 for the year. Now
that's bold. I think 4,000 yards is bold. And then, by the way, him staying healthy the whole year might be the boldest part of that prediction. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, that you're probably right about that. But and I based that on 32 attempts per game, 70% completion percentage, which is almost 3 points higher than his career high.
70's high. 70 is very high.
All right. So but he's going to have more attempts some games too.
Sure.
Which translates into 380 plus completions, and to get to 4,000, he would only need 10.5 yards per completion. In 2022, not per attempt, per completion. In 2022, he averaged 10.1. So I don't think those numbers are outlandish per se. And then the other little prediction I have, because you guys talked about this, I guess, a week and a half ago or so, was that the turnovers and the turnover differential. And I predict, and I don't think this is a bold one, I think they'll have as many or more turnovers. 31 was last year.
You mean takeaways?
But I think takeaways,
yes.
Right, takeaways. Thank you. But I think they'll have a lower differential because I think we'll be throwing the ball more. So I think our number of actual turnovers will be higher.
Oh, I think at least 31 takeaways. I think that's bold, Tim. I like that. That's pretty good. That's almost 2 a game. Bold. That's pretty good. I like those.
Yeah.
Those are 2 good, bold predictions, Tim. I'm happy to make those the first on the 2024 ledger.
Okay, and and the reason I go for that many.
All right, wrap up, Tim. We got to go.
Yeah, real quick. The reason I go for that many takeaways is because with Burns and Thibodeau and Dex coming up the middle, There's going to be a lot more pressure on the passer. They're going to have to throw the ball more often, and it's just going to lead to as many or more interceptions and some strip sacks and fumbles in the backfield. So, hey, guys, it was a great show. Thanks for taking the time, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate the call. You done?
I'm done.
All right.
I had to double check it.
No, that's fine. I told you, Tim will be great to fill time for you. He has buckets of questions. He only got the one bucket. What do you got?
So, I have Eagles at number 1.
How many total points?
38.
Okay.
I have the Cowboys at number 2, 33.
Okay.
I have the Giants at number 3 at 28.
Okay.
And I have the Commanders in 4th at 21.
Wow. So we had a lot of different group rankings, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of rankings were different. With that said, we were only off by the Eagles in 1.5 points. The Cowboys were the biggest difference at 3 points. The Giants were only difference by 1 point. And the Washington Commanders only difference by 0.5 point.
There you go.
So it might have been different from category to category, but in total, they actually came out to be pretty darn similar. So there you go. Interesting. And then Giants offense and defense wise, did you have the Giants with more offensive or defensive points? Can you do that in your head real quick?
I think defense alone, just because I had them number 1, a defensive tackle and edge.
Yeah, I had the same. I had 13.5 points on defense,
and
only 8.5 on offense.
2 at linebacker, so definitely more defense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had the same thing. All right, let's get back to the calls. Alex in Tampa, and then Jeff, you're going to hit cleanup for us. Alex, what's going on?
Hey, John. Hey, Matt.
Thank you for holding, Alex. I apologize for the long wait, man.
No, it's okay. Hey, my call is really about the offensive line. I got 2 points, and then just a comment at the end. I'll be quick. The first one is when we were going through draft prep and all that, and we got the free agents of Illuminor and Runyon, I was pretty convinced, and I think you were on the show at least at that time, that we would start with Thomas and then Runyon at left guard, Schmitz, Illuminor at right guard, and Neal at right tackle. And that would kind of be our perfect, setup if it came to be. And what I heard last week, or maybe it was earlier this week, was Runyon has been playing at right guard, Illuminor has been playing at left guard, and with Neal out, my question is if we think Illuminor would slide to the right and fill in for Neal if he was out, why we would not want to put him to practice at right guard, and why he's way over at left guard, if you could answer that one real quick.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten a firm answer from either Carmen Brasillo or from the Giants offensive staff as to why one guy's at left and one guy's at right. They just said that's the way they want to do it. I don't think we actually got a reasoning behind it, Matt, if I recall. Do you remember hearing an exact reason?
I don't think so. I have guesses, but I
don't think we've actually gotten anything from the coaches on that. Now here's my guess.
Runyon was better at left guard.
Well, remember he's not. I mean, if you look at his PFF grades, his best years were his last 2 years when he started at right guard. So and his last 2 years, I will double check that. I actually have the page up right now. I'll take a look at it. So last C pass protection the last 2 years, 60 is actually about. He was 62 and 77 his 2 years at right guard. He was 72 and 45 his 2 years at left guard. So there aren't that much different there. They're similar. But he started his last 2 years at right guard. So maybe they decided that since his last 2 years are a right guard, that's where they wanted him. Maybe they wanted him next to Evan Neal for some reason. They thought that would help. And Illuminor's played all over the place. He talked to the media yesterday. He said, I've been at every spot. It doesn't make a difference for me. So there must be something that Carmen Brasillo. So remember, Carmen Brasillo was with Illuminor in Vegas. So no one knows better than him where he's going to be able to play best. So I'm going to trust him. And I'm sure Brian Dable leaned on him too to make that to me doesn't feel like something Brian Dable would micromanage and say, no, Carmen, I want him here and him here. That's something I feel like he's going to let Carmen Brasillo give his input on. So I would trust him on that. That's a very detailed technique type of decision, and I'll trust him on making that decision more than what I've seen from the outside.
Yeah, agreed.
Second quick point. Yesterday, Paul and Matt had a great discussion on wide receivers and tight ends, and I'll summarize. Paul thought it was all going to be wide receivers, and the tight ends really wouldn't be on the field. And I think Matt was a little bit closer to reality with, hey, the wide receivers are going to open up the underneath with to allow the tight ends and running backs to play. But I would even go further again, based on our struggles at line. Until we prove that the line can hold, I think we'll see at least one tight end in there to help the offensive line going forward, and that will drive, production with, whichever one is on the field. But I think we'll see a lot more. I think I'm with Matt on that one.
I think we're going to see around. I think real quick, Alex. I think we're going to see about 80% 11 personnel. For fans that don't know, that's 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. I don't think. I don't know what the conversation was with this. I was
totally with Matt, by the way.
Is that what it was? I don't think you're going. I don't think you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end stuff. To me, I don't think you're going to see a lot of that, but I think you're going to see a lot of 1 tight end and 3 wide receivers.
Paul was saying that we're basically going to have 4 receivers on the field most of the time.
No,
or 5.
Or 5.
Yeah.
That would honestly surprise me.
Yeah.
Hey, last point real quick. I miss Lance, but John, great addition for having Matt on the show. Really enjoying how articulate you are, Matt, putting out stuff. And, Matt got pushed a little bit. Some would call it passion. Others would call it a little bullying yesterday, but he held his own. And it was great to see. Yeah, well, we know Paul how Paul can be. He pushes. He wants to see if you're going to push back.
There's a lot of you're new to this. You'll see kind of.
Was there a lot of that? I appreciate the call, Alex. Thanks so much.
It was really good, John.
All right, I appreciate that, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. I do really appreciate that.
And by the way, guys, Lance is not gone. I know you haven't seen him a lot the last couple months. We wanted to get Matt more in the mix, kind of the guys that are here every day and our full-time staff. But Lance is great. Lance didn't do anything wrong. All right, we love Lance, and I still think you'll see him down the road at some point. So, big fans of Lance. So, again, my hope is that we'll see him again. But just wanted to give everybody the heads up on that. All right, let's wrap it up with Jeff in Maine. Jeff, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, hey, great. Thanks. Afternoon, gentlemen. I just got a quick point.
Yes.
I'm excited about the kick returner new rule. And, it used to be that special teams was supposedly a third of the game, and now it really is going to be, I think. And one thing, there was a Huddle podcast, I believe, about a month ago where someone was talking about the type of body type that would make the best kickoff returner would be someone who had good burst. And because if they can get past that initial wave, there could be some clear sailing. And so I'm thinking like a shorter, stocky, strong-legged running back type. And I was real heartened to, my guy was Dante Miller, a little turbo. And I was, really glad to hear that he was doing some kickoff returns. And I'm also excited about Tyrone Tracy being good. He's 5'11". Dante Miller's 5'9". And then Wandale Robinson was doing some kickoff returns. He's 5'8". But a surprise, and I didn't hear you guys mention it yesterday, but I read a report, hopefully it's true, that they actually had Devin Singletary returning some kickoffs.
They did.
He's only 5'7", 203.
Yeah, and look, Jeff, I think you hit it, and I'm sorry for cutting you off because we have to go where it's
okay.
It's already 1:40. Appreciate the call. I think it's going to be a running back centric spot. I think you'll have some teams that'll throw a receiver out there, Matt, but I think for the most part we're going to see mostly running backs because to Jeff's astute point, you want guys that are a little bit stronger, can find the hole, burst through it, can take a little contact. My guess is you'll see more of your faster third down speed back types back there rather than, the Cowboys will probably still put Kevontae Turpin back there. He's only 165 pounds. But I think it'll probably be a position now that trends more towards running back than wide receiver, in my bet.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if I had to take a guess right now, granted it's June 13th, training camp is 6 weeks away, but right now I would think that Tyrone Tracy it would be my number one guess as to who the kick returner is. I know Jeff mentioned, it was reported that Devin Singletary was back there. Right now there are a lot of guys just back there taking reps. I think they want to have – this is the time of year where you're going to throw a lot of guys out there, throw a lot of darts, and see what actually sticks, see what hits. So
yeah.
I don't think Devin Singletary will be the primary kick returner just because he's in line to be the starting running back and take, majority of the carries out of the backfield. And while, the injury risk on the kickoff is definitely less now with the new rules, it's still a play that someone could get injured on. And I don't think the Giants are going to want to have their starting running back
agreed
in that injury risk, just because if something happens to Devin Singletary, then it's Eric Gray or Tyrone Tracy, potentially as your starting running back. And while, Tyrone Tracy could get to that point eventually at some point, he's a rookie running back that's only had 1 year of experience at the running back position. And Eric Gray, when he did get an opportunity to be the starting running back last year, he he didn't do much with it. So he definitely needs some growth and development as well. So I would be surprised when we get to the season if Devin Singletary is actually in the running for the starting kick returner. But I do agree. I think some of those other guys, Tyrone Tracy, Dante Miller needs to make the team first. But if he makes the team, I have to think he'd be right up there with Tracy. It could be those two guys back there as the two kick returners. Because as you know, I spoke about on the show yesterday, Michael Gabriel was talking about how a lot of teams are going to put two kick returners out there now because the hang time is going to be a lot, lower with the new kickoff rules, and these kickoff returners are going to have to cover a lot more ground.
Yeah, kickers will be able to kick line drives more because hang times are relevant because the returner, the blockers and coverage guys can't move until the ball is caught anyway.
Exactly. So, if Dante Miller makes the team, I could easily see it be Tyrone Tracy and Dante Miller as the two kick returners back there.
I think the competition for those second, third, and fourth, maybe, we'll see. Running back spots will be very interesting in camp.
Oh, yeah.
I think that'll be one of the fun competitions to watch.
Can't wait to see it.
And again, with running backs, folks, you kind of have to get into games because until you can you don't know how good a running back is until guys are trying to tackle him.
Yep.
And you can't tackle in training camp practice.
Yeah.
So those preseason games will be critical for those running backs to see who managed to find their way onto the team. So it'll be Citak and Dottino tomorrow on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Paul and Howard will do their rankings of the NFC East coming up next Tuesday. Then we have 2 weeks of shows. We're off next Wednesday for Juneteenth. We have shows the following week. Then we are off the week of July 4th. We finally finalized this. The week after July 4th, we're not going to be live, but Dottino's recording interviews with guys that cover our opponents on the schedule, and those will post that week to give Pearson, Dom, and kind of all the behind-the-scene guys another week off. So all of our batteries recharged and we're ready to go for the start of the regular season. Citak, I found see you. Have a good weekend, my friend.
Thank you.
And Citak will be with Dottino tomorrow on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Thank you very much. Thanks for being with us, everybody. Apologize for going long. You got some bonus content today. We'll see you next time, everybody.
Want to add some thrill to your chill? Cocoa Beach on Florida's Space Coast has it all, with miles of open beach and easy access to the Banana River and Indian River Lagoon. Cocoa Beach is your outdoor playground. Surf, foil, kite surf, jet ski, paddleboard, kayak, water ski. If you can do it in a bathing suit, you can do it on Cocoa Beach. Dive into the adventurous side of Cocoa Beach at legendarycocobeach.com.
You know that vibe? When you're rolling in your all-new Camry and you and wifey aren't seeing eye to eye? Woo, that's icy. Well, here's what you do. Use the available 12.3-inch multimedia touchscreen to pull up you all's favorite crooner. The minute she hears that high note floating from the available JBL premium audio,
oh, baby,
you'll know you just went from icy to thawed out. The vibe just shifted for the better with the all-new Camry. Toyota, let's go places.